The 2007 French presidential election, the ninth of the Fifth French Republic, was held to elect the successor to Jacques Chirac as President of France for a 5-year term. The winner, decided on 5 and 6 May 2007, was Nicolas Sarkozy. The first round of voting took place on Saturday 21 April 2007 and Sunday 22 April 2007. As no candidate obtained a majority, a second round between the two leading candidates, Nicolas Sarkozy and Ségolène Royal, took place on Saturday, 5 May and Sunday 6 May 2007. Sarkozy and Royal both represented a generational change. Either candidate would have become the first French president to be born after World War II, the first to have seen adulthood under the Fifth Republic, and the first not to have been in politics under Charles de Gaulle. Summary of results. The first round saw a very high turnout of 83.8%. 36.7 million of the 44.5 million electorate voted from a population of 64.1 million. The results of that round saw Sarkozy and Royal qualify for the second round, with Sarkozy getting 31% and Royal 26%. François Bayrou came third and Jean-Marie Le Pen fourth, unlike in 2002 when Le Pen got a surprising 16.9% and qualified for the second round. Immediately after the first round's results were made official, 4 defeated left-wing candidates, José Bové, Marie-Georges Buffet, Arlette Laguiller and Dominique Voynet, urged their supporters to vote for Royal. This was the first time since 1981 that Laguiller had endorsed the Socialist Party's candidate. Olivier Besancenot called his supporters to vote against Sarkozy. Frédéric Niehaus and Gerard Chavardy never officially supported either Royal or Sarkozy. Philippe de Villiers called for a vote for Sarkozy. Le Pen told his voters to abstain massively in the second round. On 25 April, Bayrou declared he would not support either candidate in the runoff, and announced he would form a new political party called the Democratic Movement. He criticized both major candidates, and offered to debate them. Royal agreed to hold a televised debate, while Sarkozy offered to have a private discussion but not a televised debate. By around 6:15 p.m. local time on 6 May, Belgian and Swiss news sources such as Le Soir, RTBF, La Libre Belgium and La Tribune de Genève had announced Nicolas Sarkozy as the winner of the second round, citing preliminary exit poll data. The final CSA estimate showed him winning with 53% of the votes cast. Royal conceded defeat to Sarkozy that evening. Results. First round and analysis. Nationwide, Nicolas Sarkozy obtained 31% and Ségolène Royal 26%, while in 2002, Jacques Chirac had obtained 20% and Lionel Jospin 16.18%. The right-of-centre François Bayrou obtained 18.6% this time, nearly tripling his 2002 result. National Front candidate, Jean-Marie Le Pen, made only 10.4%, compared to his stunning 16.9% finish in 2002, along with the April-May shift to the far right made by Sarkozy. This has led many commentators to allege that traditional voters of the FN had been tempted by Sarkozy. On a global scale, the left wing reached 36% of the votes, against 19% for the centre, 33% for the right wing and 11% for the far right. Other candidates received a much lower share of the vote than they had in 2002, with Olivier Besancenot failing to achieve the 5% necessary to have his political campaign reimbursed by the state. Besancenot received 4.1%, compared to 4.3% in 2002. He was followed by the traditionalist Philippe de Villiers, communist Marie-Georges Buffet, Green candidate Dominique Voynet, Workers' Struggles candidate Arlette Laguiller, Alter-Globalization candidate José Bové, Frédéric Niehaus and finally Gerard Chavardy with 0.3%. The abstention rate was 15.4%. with an overall record turnout of 83.8%, a level not achieved since the 1965 presidential election when turnout was 84.8%. The vast majority of the electorate decided not to stay home. Most of them decided against protest votes, and chose the vote utile, that is, a vote for one of the purported leaders of the electoral race. The anyone but Sarkozy push benefited both Bayrou and Royal, while the tactical voting, on the right or on the left, explains the low score of the other candidates. In contrast with the last presidential election's first round, the electoral campaign saw a polarization of the political scene, encapsulated by the "anyone but Sarkozy" slogan on the left. But it also saw a reconfiguration of the political chessboard, with various left-wing figures and voters deciding to support Sarkozy against Royal, who saw opposition inside her own party. Bernard Tapie, a former socialist, Max Gallo, who had supported left-wing Republican Jean-Pierre Chevènement in 2002, Eric Besson, etc., passed on Sarkozy's side. Centrist figures of the Socialist Party, such as Michel Rocard and Bernard Kouchner, called for an alliance between Bayrou and Royal, which might have had consequences in the June 2007 legislative elections. These determined the parliamentary majority, and decided that France would not see another cohabitation between the president, head of state, and the prime minister, leader of the government. Former Socialist Minister Claude Allegri stated such an alliance was entirely conceivable, while Royal herself strongly criticized Rocard's comments. François Hollande, the National Secretary of the Socialist Party and Ségolène Royal's partner, excluded any alliance with the centre-right, along with others left-wing leaders, such as Laurent Fabius or Dominique Voynet. Urban votes in urban areas, most lower and middle-income neighborhoods and cities voted largely for Ségolène Royal. In the 10th arrondissement of Paris, Royal obtained 42% against 25% for Sarkozy, and 20.35% for Bayrou. In the 11th arrondissement, Royal obtained more than 40.8% to 25.8% for Sarkozy and 20.9% for Bayrou. In the 18th arrondissement, Royal obtained 41.1% against 23.4% for Sarkozy. In the 19th arrondissement, Royal obtained more than 39%, against almost 28% for Sarkozy, and in the 20th arrondissement, Royal obtained 42.4% against 23.2% for Sarkozy, and 18.3% for Bayrou. Royal also narrowly beat Sarkozy in the normally conservative city of Bordeaux, as well as in Brest, Caen, Clermont-Ferrand, Grenoble, Nantes, Rouen, Lille, Le Mans, Montpellier, Saint-Étienne, Limoges, Amiens, Pau, Rennes and Toulouse. Working-class Paris suburbs also massively voted for Royal. This was more or less expected, in particular with the high level of voter registration by suburban youths, who had been strongly opposed to Sarkozy since the 2005 riots, during which he had made controversial remarks. Meanwhile, a large number of university students had participated in the protests against the CPE, proposed by Sarkozy's UMP party. In the spring of 2006, they also strongly backed Royal. She consequently came first in Nanterre, with almost 36% against 23% for Sarkozy. She reached 41.6% in Saint-Denis, against 19.6% for Sarkozy and 15.5% for Bayrou. In Évry, she also passed the 40% line, while Sarkozy received only 23.6%. In Créteil, she won a closer race, gaining 35% to Sarkozy's 30% and 18% for Bayrou. In the department of Seine-Saint-Denis, home to many people of immigrant origin, Royal obtained 34.2% to 26.8% for Sarkozy and 16.7% for Bayrou. In contrast, wealthy arrondissements of Paris voted for Sarkozy. The prosperous 16th arrondissement gave him 64% of its vote. against 16.4% for Bauru and only 11.27% for Royal. The 7th arrondissement voted for 56% in favor of Sarkozy, to 20.35% for Bauru and 15.35% for Royal. The 8th arrondissement voted at more than 58% for Sarkozy to 18.65% for Bauru and 14% for Royal. The 15th arrondissement voted 41.5% for Sarkozy against 24.3% for Royal and 22.9% for Bauru. The mostly wealthy Paris suburbs of the Hauts-de-Seine department, home of Neuilly-sur-Seine where Sarkozy is mayor, voted 38.3% for him, against 26% for Royal and 21.3% for Bauru. Sarkozy also won in the Essonne department, in the Seine-et-Marne as well as in the Yvelines. Marseille, the second largest city of France, went Sarkozy's way overall as he won 34.25% of the vote to 27.1% for Royal and only 14.1% for Bauru. However, in working-class neighborhoods of the north of Marseille, such as Cévennes and the Bas-Rhin, Royal received overwhelming support, receiving 60% of the vote in Bas-Rhin. France's third largest city, Lyon, also was won by Sarkozy, who received 34.5% of the vote to 27.3% for Royal and 22% for Bauru. He triumphed as well in the wealthy city of Aix-en-Provence with 36.8%, against 25.4% for Royal and 19.8% for Bauru. In Nice, a conservative stronghold, Sarkozy obtained more than 41% against 20.4% for Royal and less than 15% for Bauru. Sarkozy also narrowly beat Royal in the industrial port of Le Havre, as well as in Avignon, Nîmes, Metz, Nancy, and Strasbourg. Regional votes. A map of France's departments shows the candidate of the Socialist Party, Ségolène Royal, came first in the southwest and the Massif Central, which were traditional bases of the Radical Socialist Party during the Third Republic. She also topped the poll in Brittany, except in the department of Morbihan, but a fifth of electors in Brittany voted for Bauru. Nièvre and Seine-Saint-Denis were other departments where she came first, as well as the overseas departments of Martinique, Canary-Acute Union and the overseas territory of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. Sarkozy came first everywhere else, except for Pyrénées-Atlantiques, where Bauru topped the poll in the department of his birth. The left regressed, compared 2002, in the Nord-Pas-de-Calais region, which has traditionally favored socialist and communist candidates. The Nord department, hit hard during the 1980s by an industrial crisis, gave a plurality to Sarkozy, while Royal won 24.8% and Bauru received 15.6%. Marie-Georges Buffet barely received 5% in the constituency of the communist deputy Alain Bouquet. The Haute-Garonne, traditional radical socialist territory, voted for Ségolène Royal, giving her 33%, against less than 27% for Sarkozy and slightly more than 19% for Bauru. The Corrèze, where Jacques Chirac began his political career as the deputy of Ussel, also voted slightly in favor of Royal, as did the Creusot, one of the least populated departments of France. The Alpes-Maritimes, part of the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region where the National Front won several cities in the 1990s, voted for Sarkozy at 43.6%. While Royal received only 17.9%, Bauru 15.0%, and Jean-Marie Le Pen 13.5%. The Vaucluse department gave 32.8% of its votes to Sarkozy, 20.9% to Royal, 16.8% to Le Pen and 15.5% to Bauru. The Vendée voted 29.7% for Sarkozy, 21.7% for Royal, 20.8% for Bauru, and 11.3% for Philippe de Villiers, deputy of the department. Le Pen meanwhile, managed only 6.5%. Le Pen's highest departmental tallies occurred in Ain and Haute-Marne. Other departments to gave him more than 15% were the Vaucluse, Haute-Savoie, Meuse, Ardennes, Pas-de-Calais, Oise, Corse-du-Sud, Vosges, and Gard. Departments where Besant's not obtained more than 5% of the vote include Ardennes, Ain, Éragère, Allier, Calvados, Finistère, Cher, Côte d'Armor, Creusot, Indre, Moulderet, Moselle, Nord, Meuse, Moselle, Pas-de-Calais, Sarthe, Nièvre, Puy-de-Dôme, Somme, Territoire de Belfort, Seine-Maritime, Haute-Vienne, and the Overseas Collectivity of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. The Overseas Department of Martinique has been strongly opposed to Sarkozy. Aimé Césaire, mayor of Fort-de-France and leader of the Negritude movement, refused to see him during his visit there in December 2005. In the first round, it heavily supported Royal. Our Acute Union also strongly supported Royal. Meanwhile, Sarkozy won in New Caledonia and in Guadeloupe, as well as in French Guiana and the overseas territories of French Polynesia and Wallis and Futuna. Demographic breakdown of the first round vote source. Ipsos. See Sociologie du vote du premier tour. Humanité. 5 May 2007. 30% of men voted for Sarkozy, 24% of them for Royal. 32% of women voted Sarkozy, 27% Royal. 29% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted Royal, against 26% for Sarkozy. Sarkozy also made a higher score for 35 to 44-year-olds and 60 to 69-year-olds, but a lesser score in the 45 to 59-year-old category. 36% of farmers voted Sarkozy against 8% for Royal. Workers voted at similar levels for both Sarkozy and Royal, while public servants voted at 34% for Royal. 19% of unemployed people voted for Sarkozy, 32% of them for Royal. Students also voted in majority for Royal, while pensioned elders voted at 41% for Sarkozy. Second round. The second round of the 2007 French presidential election started in Saint-Pierre and Miquelon on Saturday, the 5th of May 2007 at 8 a.m. local time and ended in the large cities of metropolitan France on Sunday, the 6th of May 2007 at 8 p.m. local time. Turnout in the second round of the election was 84.0%, higher than in the first round. Nicolas Sarkozy got 53.06% of the votes and Ségolène Royal got 46.94%. The left-right division was reinforced, according to many observers, by the election of Nicolas Sarkozy. 91% of the electors self-identifying as members of the centre-left voted for Royal, and 92% of those who self-identified as centre-right voted for Sarkozy. The centre thus appears to be submitted to the left-right polarisation. The vast majority of the far left also voted for Royal, while their far-right counterparts strongly supported Sarkozy. Although Jacques Chirac was successful among young electors in 1995, mostly due to his discourse on the social rupture, Sarkozy's electorate is more traditionally right-wing and focused on older people. The only age group that gave him a majority was the over 50, who account for 52% of his voters, compared to only 37% of Royals. Sarkozy obtained only 40% among those 18 to 24 years old, while Chirac had obtained 55% in the same category in 1995. In social categories, Sarkozy won majorities among pension and inactive elders, CEOs, negotiants and craft workers, categories which are traditionally conservative. Sarkozy lost votes, compared to Chirac, among workers and employees. The general electoral geography did not significantly change from the first Chirac election. However, Sarkozy received a lesser score in Corrèze, Chirac's home department, and bettered Chirac's score in the northeast. where Le Pen had obtained some of his better scores in 2002. Overall, the increase in votes for Sarkozy between the two rounds occurred mostly in departments where the National Front's presence is strong. Spoiled votes represented 4.2% of the electors.